Gentlemen, do I
One
have your
second.
consent?
Yes, you do.
Um, Also, I have a very shit joke. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah,
Please.
why not?
An Englishman, an American, and an Australian walk into a bar. What do they order?
Beer.
Go on.
6 shots, Michael.
Very good.
All right, I'm done. Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new video here on the channel. I am very delighted and very honored to have two very special guests, two very dear friends of the channel. I've been fortunate enough to be on their channel a couple of years ago, and we're going to be talking some funny Freddy moments with the 40th anniversary of A Nightmare on Elm Street just passing us. I'd love to welcome to the channel Mr. Darren Sands and Mr. Frank Riker of the Slaughtered Lamb Movie Podcast. Fellas, thank you so much for jumping on for this one.
Thanks for
No
having us,
problem.
Chris.
No problem. Hell of an
Now,
intro there. Thank you.
yeah, of course, man. It's 1:21 a.m. I'm feeling fresh as a daisy because we have three separate time zones to go through. But yeah, today we're just going to be talking funniest Freddy moments. For the longest time, on your channel, Dave's channel, my channel, we always celebrate serious Freddy. But I think the funny Freddy should be celebrated as well. For each of you, when was it when you'd see a shift from serious Freddy to funny Freddy, but not the funny Freddy that you think works on film, but stupid Freddy? When did you see that and you think, oh shit, here we go?
Oh wow. I think for me, it has to be from Dream Warriors Part 3, and I could tell you why. I was glued to the television at Joey's famous nurse scene, and
I
then
wonder
Freddy
why.
coming up, and I never seen Freddy kiss somebody like that as somebody else, and then saying, "What's wrong, Joey? Tongue tied?" And I'm like, "Wait a minute, that was a joke. This is different. This is different, Freddy."
Yeah, I think it's actually slightly earlier than that. I think for me, Dream Warriors, there's a few moments in Dream Warriors whereas you get a more you get a quippy Freddy. Whereas in the original Elm Street and Elm Street 2, I think he's very threatening in the original Elm Street, but I think in Elm Street 2, I think he's more vicious. I think he's more angry.
Yeah.
In Dream Warriors, you get a lot of that kind of, the comedy starts to seep in. But for me, it works. It's when it gets to Dream Master or even Dream Master onwards, I think, is when it really starts to grate a little some of the humor. And you start to realize that he's becoming more of a kind of caricature at this point now.
100%.
But certainly from Dream Warriors onwards, there is a that's where you start to these kind of quips start to seep in.
Yeah, and it was during that time, that bubble of like Dream Master and Dream Child, where Robert was just whoring himself out, doing like VHS promos, rapping, like everything. He had his own vinyl. It was just ridiculous. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. It's not necessarily pieces from the series. It's like obscure pieces of promotional stuff, appearances. Like some of the stuff you sent, Frank, I had to really like search the history of this, where this came from. There's one particular one. I don't even know the history of it, so I'm gonna have to pick your brain on that one. But like I said, we've got a bit of everything. We've even got stuff from Freddy's Nightmares. So I think the first one we'll start off with, and Frank, correct me if I'm not pronouncing it correctly. It's DC Follies.
Correct. DC Follies. It lasted 2 seasons, and hosted by a guy everyone should know by the name of Fred Willard as a bartender, and they would make caricatures and puppets, sort of like in the sense of HR Puffin stuff. And these are the ones that you would see in the Phil Collins video, Land of Confusion. All the political characters being all these puffy puppets and everything.
Oh, yeah, that's from the TV show in Britain called Spitting Image, which was like a kind of satirical news show, whereas every Sunday night they would recap the week's news in kind of puppet form. And it would be very kind of cutting edge, very, very up to date. Even if a news story had broken that day, they would somehow find some way of doing a kind of sketch about it later that evening. It did make a comeback recently, but it was pretty terrible. But yeah, that's where those puppets originate from.
Not Punch and Judy?
I guess if you go further back, you could argue that they originated from there. Yeah.
These aren't Jim Henson puppets.
No, this is like nightmare fuel.
Yeah.
What they did, a lot of those puppets were they would take the features of a lot of the celebrities or political figures and emphasize them. You know, they would take Ronald Reagan, they would actually make his hair really slick, as he was known for. Ted Koppel, but his head would be really huge at top and then his chin really skinny at the bottom. And they would have actually celebrities come on, and one of them was Robert Englund dressed as Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, and I remember this doing the rounds years ago, and it was really poor quality, and the one you got was really good. So this is actually from my year of birth, 1988. So let's check it out.
Oh, I love your fingernails. Are they press-ons?
Aw, there you are, honey. You know, you look pretty enough to kiss.
Sorry, pal, wrong monster.
Do you think that's actually
Robert is having the absolute time of his life?
Yeah, do you think that's his actual voice that we're hearing there? Is that him? Is that doctored in any way?
I think it's like pitched ever so slightly, but because that's 88. Yeah, so that would be the Dream Master makeup. So like, obviously for promo of Dream Master, that makes total and utter sense. So Fred Willard was always the host of that show, Frank.
Correct. And he would contemplate, life with these puppets and these celebrities. And when people want to watch that clip on YouTube, there's a time at the end where everyone's closing up shop, and Freddy's just contemplating whether or not he should just keep going on and what's the meaning of life. And Fred keeps on coming to him, Fred Willard, and saying, look what you're doing. Everyone's scared of you. And I'm trying to paraphrase here a little bit. And he's like, I don't know what it's worth, And I'm like, hey, you're the guy everyone dreams of. He's like, well, you're right. And then at the end, he says, Fred, make sure when you're done, you lock up. And he's like, yeah, I'll take care of everything. And then he hears a cat and he goes, here, kitty, 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 kitty. But seeing Freddy for the first time, just contemplating life in a bar,
What does it all mean?
Yeah, what does it all mean? I'll give it up. Hey, lift that chin up off the floor. You're that guy.
You're the man of everyone's dreams.
Yeah. DC Follies, Freddy. I think that's the time where, because there is a certain point where Freddy is now becoming marketable, even to the younger generation. And the driving force for New Line Cinema's money.
Yeah.
Every time something gets sold, especially to kids, and he's not scary anymore, the money keeps rolling in.
Because Darren, was it by part 3 it had blown up in the UK, or even part 2 and part 1 were pretty successful in the UK?
Yeah, I think 1 and 2, although I don't really remember 2 being at the cinema very long. It seemed to come out on VHS fairly quickly, but everybody was watching them. And I remember the video stores, which, especially when part 2 came out, the UK artwork for it, which I love, which is him stood there on the bus at the bottom of the poster. You couldn't move for it. It was just every video store you walked in. Obviously, Warner Brothers had spent a fortune on promotion for part 2. And then when part 3 came along, it was even bigger. The cinemas, it was huge, and VHS as well. And what I loved about it was we got completely different artwork to the US on all 3 films, which was terrific. And when I look back at it now, I think the artwork we got for number 1 was better than the US poster, even though the US poster is fantastic. You get that Graham Humphreys one for the UK. And I think he may have had a hand in number 2 as well. But 3, the artwork for 3 in the UK was dreadful. And it was Freddy in this long overcoat set to this kind of blue background with nothing behind him at all. Just kind of holding the glove out in front of him like that. Whereas the Dream Warriors artwork in the US, I thought was great stuff.
It's funny, some pieces of media trickled into Australia that had the trench coat look. I remember seeing it when I was a kid, and I'm like, why is he wearing a grandpa trench coat? Like, what's going on? It's just interesting to see just some obscure pieces of media from different parts of the world. And like, again, we're staying in the pocket of 1988, and this is when Freddy rapped with the Fat Boys with the next clip we're going to look at. And Frank, the clip you sent of, like, we're not going to watch the whole thing, it's just that little segment and Robert's little thing that he does.
The genie.
All right, we'll check it out.
Young ones old. Your mamas too. And if you don't watch out, I'm gonna thrill you too. So my advice to you is to stay ready, cause you know who's back? Freddy. You see, my name is Freddy, and I'm here to say I'll wrap you up and take you away. Feel like you're tired and ready for bed. Don't fall asleep or you'll wake up dead.
Darren's face. I think it's hilarious.
When one of the Fat Boys comes out and he does that at the door. What's cool is Robert's actually singing.
Yeah. And the thing is that as Frank said, and you said as well, Chris, he was just whoring himself out, and it made lots of money. It made a ton of money for them. However, he lost his edge. He completely lost his edge. He wasn't funny. He wasn't scary anymore, and got to the point whereas he wasn't funny anymore either. So it was a double-edged sword doing it. But as we know, like we've said countless times on the stream already, it made a fortune for them, and I get why they did it. But as a cinematic slasher, a villain, a horror icon, he just lost all stock with it.
I mean, can you imagine part 1 or part 2 Fred rapping?
No. Not at all. I don't even, when I watched it, we were talking about this the other night, when I kind of, those two are in isolation for me now. Do you know what I mean? As very unsettling horror movies, whereas from 3 onwards, it's just, I treat them as something completely different. And I rarely visit the other movies now because of this. So,
because what did you say at the beginning of the video? Part 2 Freddy was more, the word you used. Angry, because I did my Elm Street hot takes the other day, and someone was talking about the humor with Freddy, and I realized, I'm like, part 1 Fred is more humorous than part 2. Part 2, he's nasty.
Yeah,
hence revenge.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which
and in love. The funny thing about that Fat Boys, the Fat Boys are a legend, a rapping legends. And the funny thing, I read some of the comments for some of those for that video, is that they said, I don't believe this is a nightmare. Actually, I do believe it's a nightmare because the guy's bringing home good food to the Fat Boys, bananas, fruits, vegetables, which they would never eat.
The Dr. Phil looking dude with the blue and white shirt on.
Yeah, it's like, it is a nightmare because you don't get that big eating fruits and vegetables.
No. To them, that is hell.
Yeah, it is a nightmare. Open wide. Got some porridge.
I honestly don't think I've ever seen that before. I remember the song.
Classic.
I remember the song, but I have not seen that video before. That is terrible.
Oh yeah,
you don't like Rappin' Freddy?
No,
because at the beginning there's a bit of like a epilogue or a prologue where the Fat Boys inherit 1428 Elm, and it's the estate manager saying, in your Uncle Frederick's will, you have to stay here one night.
Uncle Frederick.
Darren's just getting more and more disgusted.
I thought we were jumping the shark a little bit with Dokken, but this shocking.
And amongst that, so we're going to go back to 1987 now. So a year later, Freddy raps with the Fat Boys. He's got his own 1-800 number, sex hotline, whatever. Now, the But in 1987, I'm pretty sure it was 87, they released A Nightmare on Elm Street, the board game. Now, what I'm about to show you guys isn't Robert, and you'll see it straight away, but this is incredible. Darren, you're just going to shake your head.
You know my face. You know my name. Now get my tape and buy my game. You'll want the mask. You'll need the glove. The poster and book are what you'll love. So get all this for one low price. For easy payments. It sure sounds nice. So listen up on where to call. Cause if you don't, I'll get you all.
To order the Nightmare on Elm Street Dream Package by credit card, call 254-9200. That's 254-9200. Call now.
Holy shit. He's like a plum tomato or something in this, isn't he?
He should have stayed with the Fat Boys.
Yeah. It's like that turnip you got behind you, Darren.
That is incredible.
Dreadful.
That they used that for this all this tut that people are supposed to buy.
Yeah, yeah.
And in Maryland.
Yep. So that was that. And I found that a year ago on Facebook, screen recorded it because I'd never seen that before. Like I'd seen the Fat Boy stuff, the 1-800 line, all that stuff. Never saw that one before. And again, it's not Robert. Like there are a few things that they did media wise that Robert didn't do. And you can tell, like it's completely devoid of what Robert's all about as Freddy.
It's Mickey Rooney. He did everything. I could do that.
Jiminy Jillikers.
Yeah. That is awful because there were plenty of games around, right? There were board games. There was plenty of them. The video games were around. But was this his first board game or any game?
There was another one that came out. I'll have to double check, but I'm pretty sure this was the first one.
Like dip your toes in the water and see if this sells.
Yeah, absolutely. And you just looked it up, and they're going for $500. So clearly,
is that really how much they're going for now? Jesus,
especially unopened, maybe. I mean, would anybody want to play it though? I mean, I don't know what. So the probably the synopsis of the game is that you just got to get away from Freddy and hide somewhere.
I assume so. Yep.
It's not like Connect 4.
Snakes and Ladders, the Elm Street edition.
Yeah, Snakes and Ladders. Snakes and beds or snakes and pillows.
So, yeah, board game, we got Rapping with the Fat Boys, and then the TV series, Freddy's Nightmares, which I actually got to admit, there are some episodes that aren't bad. Like, majority of them are pretty cooked. But given the anthology approach, I like it. Like, it's not bad at all. Like, there are some that are aged terribly, but some I'm like, oh, that's not a bad storyline. Like, did you guys watch it back in the day?
I did.
Yeah, I rented it because in the UK they brought it out on VHS and kind of like, I think there were like sort of 3 episodes per tape or something like that. So you'd have different volumes of it. And I was very excited by it at first when I saw it in the shop, and then to get it and take it home and realize that it's just kind of an anthology with him sort of bookending stories and stuff.
Crypt
It was
Keepers.
Disappointing because some of the stories were pretty poor.
Well, we're going to look at 3 clips from Freddy's Nightmares. So, yeah, Frank, you've sent 2, which are great, but we're going to check out the end of No More Mr. Nice Guy Part 2, which directed by Toby Hooper. Part 1 and 2, you see the backstory of Freddy and how he came to be, but the way he's set alight isn't like the most dramatically accurate portrayal of how you'd set someone on fire, and he just stands there and takes it like an absolute champ. But it's so cheesy, so 80s, and so beautiful.
I am forever. That's it. Pour it all over. Pig, I'm thirsty. you missed the spot. Gonna have a cookout, huh? Go ahead. I dare you, cop. Go ahead, you pig. Come on. I'd rather burn up than fade away. I'll be back. I'm free.
Isn't it interesting that he suddenly gained 20 pounds?
Yeah, is that even him?
No.
Like at the start, I mean, it looks like it doesn't even look like a person from behind. It just looks like a dummy or something that's
He's
there.
just
That's
standing
moves
there like that.
Yeah.
Like it's
Bizarre.
him here, like that shot of his teeth. That's Robert for sure. But I love I'm thirsty.
It's almost like he's like, oh yes, get it all over me. Oh
Yeah.
He's
So you
he's
wanna
at P
cook out,
Diddy's
huh?
place at one of P Diddy's parties.
yeah, oil me up. That's right. You missed the spot. And that's not John
Terrible.
Saxon. That's not because he was involved in this, and then it makes Freddy's Dead a lot better now after seeing that. When he's sitting there, I mean, no offense, but I mean, it makes him, he's sitting there, he's licking the picture of the girl, putting it in his album because he just got off of the charges because of a technicality, and then when the Molotov cocktail goes right through, he's actually nervous of it. He looks at it and he's scared. And then, the dream demons come in and everything. He's like, I want it all. He didn't do that. That sounds and looks better than him just going, pour it all over me. That feels good.
You imagine if he did that when the dream demons were around him, they'd probably be like, no.
I want you in me as they're pouring all over me.
But those first two episodes were pretty solid, especially that opening sequence in the courtroom when he's in the tank that you'd see on the Pope Mobile and stuff like that. It's crazy, and it had potential, but then it obviously went to the whole anthology route, which I didn't mind at all.
Yeah.
So was that right? The first few episodes were actually Freddy themed. Is that I don't remember this at all.
Yeah.
First two, okay. I don't remember that. I don't recall it. I did rent them, and so I must have watched them. Yeah, I mean, we're talking 40 years ago, maybe 35 years ago, or something like that. It's a long time. Well, it's more than 40. It's less than 40 because the 40th anniversary is this year, isn't it? Right there. But yeah, I do remember renting them, but I don't remember 2 episodes of just, being Freddy based like that. That's interesting. I have to go back and watch those.
Based or based?
Whichever.
Frank's a bit thirsty. He wants to get based.
Oh, pour all over me. I can taste the bubbles. A little Stifler there. I can taste the bubbles.
I can taste the bubbles.
and it's weird because Freddy's Nightmares, when it first came out, were on cable.
Yep.
They were unedited. They were. You had to actually, subscribe to cable expensively to get them. And then when they coming out on air, they were chopped from 45 minutes to from 45 minutes to an hour down to a half hour. So they cut everything out and just put it like on channel Fox. Fox 5, and at 11 o'clock at night when everybody was asleep. So you didn't get the full Freddy once you were able to see it widely.
Remember Robert said in Never Sleep Again, because it was syndicated, they put it on at like 4 p.m. in the Bible Belt. And all the parents are losing their shit.
Well, it's edited.
It's fine. It's fine, honey. But with those wraparounds with Robert, one of the directors of Freddy's Nightmares said, I would literally go from one soundstage directing Robert, run across the way to another soundstage and direct like the rest of the episode. Because like they try and get Robert in the makeup, do as many shots of the wraparounds as possible. Frank, you sent this one and I'd never seen this one before. We're going to check it out. Goofy as fuck. I think it's him counting money.
Hey, you. Yeah, I'm talking to you. Get over here. I said, get over here. feather chump. You know, they say that money is the root of all evil. Oh, no wonder I love it so much. I love you, I love you, I love you. Now Greta would do anything. She'd lie, she'd cheat, she'd kill to get her scummy little hands on a stack of bills. Me, I'd do all that for free.
So that's probably Robert's actual money from all that.
I mean, Freddy has never been about money, ever.
No.
I don't think we've ever had any inclination of money being in the movies at all. It's never been about that. So seeing Freddy count money and saying he loves money is absolutely weird.
It is, and it's like, you fucking sell out.
Yeah. New line, come here.
Cameraman shakes the head.
Driving
It's
a
Robert
school
Shea
bus,
behind the
did he?
camera. It's all dollars, right? It's all Washingtons. That's all it is.
And fun fact, so they used the part 4 makeup and the part 5 makeup because it was 88 and 89 that Freddy's Nightmares ran, which was Dream Master and Dream Child. So the clip we just watched was the Dream Child makeup, because they just used whatever's around, because they didn't have the budget to make new makeup, new molds, all that stuff. But those wraparounds are hilarious. There's one, there was an episode that takes place on a plane, and Leslie Dean, who plays Tracy from Freddy's Dead, plays a flight attendant. I should have included it in this one. I'll overlay it. It cuts to outside the plane, and Freddy's got the big aviation goggles on, a scarf, and the old flappy hat, and he's out on the wing fixing it.
Like Snoopy?
like Snoopy.
There's something on the wing.
Wing on the wing.
It's so weird, because if you actually look at the series, from start to finish, Freddy's face is mostly in the dark, because I think it's either the mold or the mask or the makeup is deteriorating every time they're showing it, or it's not on perfectly. So they just show his eyes, or they're showing his mouth talking, but it's always in the dark. It's like when in part 3, not part 3, in part 4, you could see when Freddy comes back, you shouldn't have buried me. I'm not dead.
Yeah.
You can't see his mouth move in HD. It takes you out a little bit, just a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's such a
just
good
dubbed
shot
over.
too.
Yeah. Hey, listen, it could have been worse. She could have looked out on the wing, and he could have been on a fucking broomstick. So
don't bring it up. Chris's favorite.
One of my all-time worst moments in the franchise. It really
Darren,
is.
I will get you my pretty and your little soul too.
It'll be a NECA figure, and Chris will buy it.
Terrible.
So the next clip is from Freddy's Nightmares, and it's called "It's My Party and You'll Die If I Want You To." So this is from 1989. So this is season 2. This is probably the top tier, goofiest performance from Robert I've seen, but also amongst these other clips, showcasing Robert's kind of physical comedy, which is something I don't think he I'm not going to say took advantage of, but he was really good at it.
Not. Can I come in? May I have this dance? Ready and dip.
I love the fact that she's still holding on to the severed hand when she starts dancing.
I saw this just out of the blue years ago, but just Robert's
It's so camp. So
Now
camp.
dip. So funny. It's so funny. You know, it's just that's my type of woman anyway. You know, so I definitely would want to go in and get a dance. And I know why Freddy did too.
It's just another character completely, isn't it? Like we say when we're talking about Elm Street 1 and 2, this is so far removed that it doesn't even feel like it's the character that was in those first two movies. You know, it's totally alien to the I'm gonna split you in two and you know all that kind of stuff. It's and I don't know what's the other thing that you are all my children now, all that kind of you know that awesome scene at the barbecue in Elm Street 2 where he's just wandering around, glistening in all that light, looking sore and raw and scary as hell, and you get this. It's just so far removed. It's difficult to watch.
It's funny.
And he does his laundry because that sweater is still pristinely clean.
Oh, dude! By the time they got to Freddy's Dead, they didn't even fucking like distress the hems of the sweater. They just didn't care. They just literally picked it up from the knitting company and threw it on Robert. It's funny when you guys did your video yesterday with Dave for the best and worst of Elm Street. That line, I'm going to split you in two, and that shot, it's so dark, but you can just make out, even though what you just said about, you know, Freddy glistening in part 2, that makeup's glistening in part 1, and he's just so pissed. Like, I'm going to split, like, you've just, like, you've hit me with a sledgehammer. I've gone over a banister. I'm aching. I'm sore. And he's just had enough. And like you said, to go from that to what we just witnessed.
It's still
Completely
great, though.
different.
It's still funny.
Now, Frank, this next one you sent, I have no history of it. History on it. I don't know. Freddy Locked Out. Where did you find this?
So this is from the Roseanne show, not the actual, you know, with John Goodman and not her actual TV show. This was a one-time HBO special. It's Roseanne Barr, I think, or Arnold at the time. Just having, you know, just a one-time HBO special. That's HBO really doesn't do too much of that now, unless it's a comedic special. I think this is what it was. So yeah, it's a Roseanne Barr, aka Roseanne Arnold, HBO special.
Now this isn't Robert, is it?
No, God, no. It's not even the hat.
Poor Darren looks terrified.
Lock the door, lock the door. If the neighborhood wasn't going to hell, I wouldn't have to be the night watchman.
Richard, is that you?
Darren's face.
What is that laugh?
It's like a troll from under the bridge got out. It's not even the right glove. It's the glove they probably got from the Halloween store, you know, or a costume store. Not the right hat. Again, he's very portly. The jaw is a little more squared. And it's not even the right movements. Yeah, and everything is probably tight on the actor. And they probably didn't even ask Robert to come because it was going to be a quick little 10-second little walkthrough. It's probably a stagehand that's doing that because you see the gloves, you see the blades. They got to be only like what, 3 inches, 4 inches, if that. Yeah, it looks awful. But yeah, like you said, the laugh and him being locked out of a house.
And the first 10 seconds of it looks like he's having a seizure, for God's sake.
Yeah.
He's just backwards and forwards like.
Because what was the context of that episode? Was it just like so it was a Halloween special or?
Yeah, it was just either a Halloween special. There's not too much on about it. HBO at that time just did specials just to have specials to get its name out there. And, you know, and Freddy was hot at the time. And what could you do? You know, who was the scariest person that could ever come into your house? And it was Freddy. They wouldn't know Jason. They wouldn't know Michael.
No, like, and he's the most recognizable. Like, he's got the personality to match. I remember also when Robert, like, did a couple of words on The Simpsons for that opening couch gag with him and Jason. That was I remember taping that and just watching that over and over and over. And they just got him in for that one little bit, which that's awesome. Like, once you're on The Simpsons, you've made it.
Yep. And then, you know, the Simpsons had the Halloween special with groundskeeper Willie as a Freddy type character, which is a classic
Your
episode.
acquaintance.
Yeah. Hoot, man, hoot.
We need Barry to dress up as groundskeeper Willie Freddy. I love that story you guys told from the other weekend and how rough Barry was the next day. Even I've been finding myself saying it around the house, clothes like, "Oh, do you want this?" And I'm like, no.
No.
You remember that? No, I don't. No.
You want another beer? I cannot.
It was when we got to the end of the day. We got to the end of the day and he turned around to me. We were in this bar and he turned around to me and he was drinking Coke or something. He'd not touched a drop all day. And he looked at me and he went, "I've just realized I've not spoken all day."
And,
the only thing he said all day was, no.
I actually, when he was pissed, I gave him chips. I said, "Here's some fries. You need food. You need to feel a lot better." And he held it, and he's like, "I'm from Jersey. And I'm eating French fries." And he took one fry, and he dumped the rest on the floor. And he just ate the one. He's like, "Oh, I dropped my French fries from Jersey." And I'm like, "Chris, you know, I was like, you know, Barry, those things were expensive. You know, you just dropped the low." He's like, oh well."
Poor Barry's gonna watch this and be like, "Oh shit." So, boys, like, Freddy's Dead, the final nightmare. We've saved the best for last. I call this clip problematic Freddy, or hashtag Me Too Freddy. Dave mentioned it at the end of your stream yesterday. He was hoping he would see it on this. So this is from a Japanese variety show back in the day. I'm gonna guess like 89 because he's wearing the Dream Child makeup. It's called Kato-chan, Ken-chan, Goki-gen. Try saying that 20 times. So the whole clip itself goes for like 8 minutes, but I've just got the pocket of absolute gold. And again, it's seeing Freddy in part 1, part 2, being demonic, being cruel, being evil, and just nasty. And then this.
And what Chris is failing to show is some kind of game of catch with that glove.
Yeah. Yeah, there were and I love one of the hosts is quietly putting another glove on, and
Yeah, they throw apples at him, and he catches them with the blades and everything. And
Yeah.
Robert,
And like I said, the clip,
he's nervous.
Yeah, the clip itself is like 8-9 minutes long, but before that, it's like a nice bit of stalking. There's like it's at nighttime. Freddy's chasing the three of them through the house, and then it gets to that, harsh studio lights. And again, it's showcasing like Robert's like physical comedy. Like he's like classically trained, but obviously he has that physicality as Freddy, but just problematic Freddy at the end, getting ready.
Oh my God. I mean, I used to live in Japan, so the sense of humor there doesn't surprise me at all. It really doesn't. And things like that they would often find very funny, but looking at that, 35 years later, ooh. It's got it leaves a nasty taste in the mouth, doesn't it? There's particularly that closing moment there.
Yeah. But
No pun intended, Darren.
The foot on his chest as well. Did he have his foot on her chest? He did. I saw that, right? Yeah.
I think so. Either up on the bed or up on her chest. Which from her point of view, she'd be staring right down Main Street.
Oh,
England Street, whatever.
Yeah. Imagine if they fell out. Freddy's meatballs.
Rick, you little meatball.
Do you think Robert feels embarrassed by any of this, or do you think he accepts it and say, "Hey, it was the time and it paid my bills"?
I think he just got amongst it and
he loved it.
He
absolutely loved it. He was in Japan. People knew who he was all around the world
with the makeup on.
Absolutely, he still loves it now. It's good for him as well. We can criticize and say it's not our Freddy, but it's everybody from the age of 5-year-old to 95-year-old knows exactly who that character is. It's incredible and good for him. Milk it. He got to see some amazing places. Go on these weird and wacky TV shows. What's not to like?
She almost did.
Yeah.
I mean, did you guys ever see the Russian Freddy Krueger?
There's a Russian Freddy Krueger. Not Sharp
There was a
Joe.
Russian. There was a Russian Freddy Krueger, and it was the hat, the sweater, and everything. But it looked like something from Ghoulies. Like they just put green goo on a guy and hair coming out of the side.
Frank, I'll have to get you to send that to me, and I'll overlay it so people can see. I'm intrigued now. Russian Freddy.
Let me do it now. Hold on, I have it. It's a long link, but there you go.
Oh, hang on.
I'm here.
Oh. Hey. It looks like a potato that's been air fried several times.
It does look like something that's dropped out of someone's nose.
Well, that's what would have fallen out of Robert's boxes on the variety show.
Oh, they are crispy.
So, boys, that's it for some funny Freddy moments. Again, like we always talk about our love for serious Freddy and Robert's performance, but I think it's just good to have a laugh. And like you said, Darren, look back on Robert relishing and getting amongst it and taking advantage of the fame at the time in the 80s, which is just crazy to see how much of a whirlwind that was. And like I keep forgetting at times they were pumping these films out yearly.
And the thing was, he was never going to retire from being Freddy Krueger and jump back into any sort of, meaningful role after that. So it just made sense for him to just get out there and milk it for every penny it's worth. And as he says himself now, that the only roles he really gets are the kind of the crazy doctor or the crazy scientist or, the lecturer or something like that. They're just tiny bit parts, which, although, all right, they're going to keep the roof over his head, but they're nothing substantial whatsoever. He's never going to be a leading man ever again because of this role, because he's just synonymous with being Freddy Krueger. So I think what he did was just right. Just get out of there and rinse it for everything that you can.
That's it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think also just it's a good trade-off. And he, like you guys said, he relishes it. He loves it. He you see him at cons. He always has the biggest line.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Annoyingly, to Frank's disgust.
Bastard! Stop talking and let us all get something. Go get an autograph or something. You go up there and you start talking to him about rescue dogs and jazz. Worst thing I ever heard was somebody in line saying, "What's your favorite jazz albums?" And everyone going, "Oh,
It was you, wasn't
there
it?
forever." I didn't even get that far to even just wave at him, But I agree with everybody else. Like Kane Hodder, like Nick Castle. This was their role that made Robert a household name, and he does love it. And I think on the documentary, he says him and his wife says they don't have children. But him going around to these conventions and him going around to all these meet and greets and meeting everybody, that's everyone he meets are their kids.
Yeah.
And him being relevant and people knowing who he is. And then the generation that we grew up in is now teaching this generation of children who Freddy is and keeping him alive. And I think it's great that he is keeping it alive for the rest of us by going to this stuff. And it's going to be a very, very, very sad day when he passes.
Yeah, it's one of those intrusive thoughts you have, like, you have that intrusive thought like, oh God, like what if my puppy passed away, and you start welling up. And I had that same thought with Robert. It's weird. Like, I've met him for a couple of, fleeting moments a couple of times. But again, it's just the impact he has on the fans, me, I owe a lot of where I am now because of Freddy, which is insane. Yep. But at the end of the day, like, just to have a laugh, look back and just see how batshit crazy things got, but also just taking advantage of it. I think it's just such a wonderful whirlwind of exposure for him. Now, fellas, with that being said, we're going to wrap it up, but look, if people are watching this, they know who you guys are, but just in case, where can the good folks find you?
You can find us at TSL Movie Podcast or the Slaughtered Lamb Movie Podcast on YouTube and Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. We're on all socials. So, yeah, we've just done a Freddy episode ourselves. We've just done a kind of a best and worst of A Nightmare on Elm Street, which we did with Dave McRae the other day, which was a lot of fun, which you talked about earlier. And I'm sure we've got plenty more Elm Street content coming up as well.
Beautiful. Yeah, because it's currently Sunday morning, the 10th. So the 9th has passed with the 40th anniversary. Again, it's crazy that it's been 40 years. And, here's to another 40 more of keeping the memory alive. But yeah, boys, I really do appreciate you jumping on for this one. Not to get sappy, but your videos have helped a lot, get me through a few tough times where I needed a good distraction, especially your best and worst of the Elm Street series that you did with Dave, just to have them in the background. And it's that weird feeling like when you have anxieties and stuff like that, and you watch stuff that's familiar, you watch reruns, and my go-to is like familiar YouTube videos, Frasier and Home Improvement. So I just thank you for taking the time.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chris. And you Darren, I love you too, because your knowledge and your humor and your personality, talent, especially, and Chris has actually got me getting back into modeling. I've asked him a couple.
You like getting back out on the catwalk, or
that too? Nair or just straight razor? And he goes, well, certain areas may need the razor. Nair is a little bit more stingy. Alcohol dries out the skin. But yeah, thank you very much, and it's always a pleasure, and we're glad to call you a friend.
But yeah, guys, with that being said, drop a comment below and let me know your thoughts on your wackiest Freddy moment. Doesn't have to be from the series. Again, obscure pieces of media like VHS promotions, stuff like that. There's a lot that we didn't include. We could go on for a very long time, but again, Frank, Darren, thank you so much for your time, boys. Love you guts, and I'll catch you in the next one.